this time of year, as I mentioned once before, Christmas, Advent, and now going into Epiphany, it's one of those times when the whole world remembers who Jesus was and the events that happened. And when you look especially at Epiphany and that star in the east, all manners of explanation for what that star was, what that celestial event represented, fill the internets and newspapers and magazines. Websites from space.com to nasa.com to crazypeople.com all talks about what was that happened in the heavens. Well, the conjecture is that it was all the planets came together this one time and made this unbelievable light. No, it was a supernova that happened then. No, it was a comet that went. All these types of different explanations, and quite frankly, none of them hold any water whatsoever. Can't be explained. But especially today, we've got to be able to prove it. What was it? We look at the wise men, the three kings. What do we know about them? Well, we know there were three of them, right? We know their names, right? Gaspar, Melchior, and Balthasar, right? We all know those. Now, Phil sang for you, and you have in front of you everything that we have in the scripture about this event. Take a minute and look at it. You have it there. Look at it. Tell me that it says, read to me where it says there were three kings. Tell me where it says they were kings. Tell me their names. We don't have any of that, do we? Well, where did that silliness come from? Well, you have to have names, right? So, tradition came up with them. We know the lands that they are from, right? Where does it say that in the gospel? Nowhere. It doesn't give us squat. All it says is a bunch of guys came to Bethlehem and brought some stuff. They brought gold, frankincense, and myrrh. And quite frankly, if tradition is true, and I have absolutely zero reason to doubt, but then Mary and Joseph came from very, very poor background. If three guys, and we're just assuming the three for the sake of it makes the song that's going to follow make sense. If the three guys came, dropped the presents of gold, frankincense, and myrrh in front of them, what do we know now about Mary and Joseph? They are no longer poor. They have hit the first century lottery. Right? They now have it made for the rest of their lives. What happened to the gold, the frankincense, and the myrrh? Oh, they gave it to the poor people. Shut up. Even if they gave 50% of it to the poor people, they are still wealthy beyond any way they could spend the money. Yet we know Jesus lived in a poor family. All this stuff happens, especially at this time of year, especially when we look at Epiphany. And we get so hung up in having to prove the facts that we lose the meaning of the truth. Now again, I want you to take a look at what you have in front of you. Or remember back to what Phil sang. Phil doesn't have to look because my guess is he's memorized that sucker for the rest of his life. He'll never forget that. And the three wise men, they bring their stuff, they come in with their camels, they find Mary and the baby. By the way, what happened to Joseph? Marcial, you've done your part. You are now forgotten for the rest of the baby's life. It's Marie-Helene and Marcialito. You are superfluous. Just like poor Joe was. So they find Mary and the baby. What do? It's in front of you. Worship, they do what first? They kneel down. When you kneel before someone, what is that representative of? Humility, subservience. Yeah. Now, I'm thinking about this sermon this week. And yesterday we had to take a drive into Littleton. And as I'm driving through Littleton, I'm coming into New Hampshire. Not quite as bad as Maine, but okay. I'm coming into New Hampshire. And I see all the license plates from New Hampshire. What does the license plate on New Hampshire say?
Live free or die.
Oh my gosh. And I'm thinking about that in juxtaposition with what we're hearing in this Epiphany story. Of whether or not they are kings, wise men, who cares? They are people that came in the presence of this child, knew who he was, and knelt before him. Okay, we're going to have a little exercise. I'm going to stand here, and starting from the back row, everybody forward, I want you to walk, here, I'll make it easy. I want you to walk forward and kneel before me. I'll wait. I'm going to get a chair. I may bring lunch. That's not going to happen, right? We don't do that because I'm just me. I'll tell you what. I'm going to make a phone call. And next Sunday, I guarantee that Barack Obama will be here, the leader of the free world. He will stand here, and you will all, in turn, have the opportunity to come and kneel before him. And I'm going to tell Barack, bring a chair. Bring your lunch and a whole lot of Secret Service. We're not going to do that, are we? No. We kneel before no person, unless you're married, and then it's a different kind of thing. But we kneel before no person. That's not the way it is. We are free. We are independent. We take care of ourselves. We do what's good for us and for ours. That's the American way, right? Anybody want to disagree? You can, but you would be really wrong, because it's a fact. Yet here we have these three people from elsewhere come down, and the first thing they do is kneel. Now, again, you have it in front of you. Phil sang it. You remember it. Does it say anywhere where they were grabbed off their camels and shoved to their knees? They fell to their knees by and through exercising their free will. This was a choice they made to honor the one that they had the true privilege to be in the presence of. As of that moment, for all intents and purposes, their freedom ended. Now again, we are all, every one of us, created by God and have free will. That's understood. But as soon as they made that proclamation, they gave up their will and said, "Thy will be done." And it doesn't say, and this is strictly conjecture and speculation on my part, but my guess is they left that place no matter how long they were there. And it doesn't say. Were they there years, weeks, Days? Did they make this perilous trek? Drop off their stuff, kneel down, genuflect, and leave? We don't know. But for however long they were there, they left as changed people. They had found themselves in the presence of something so much greater than them. And again, speculation tells me that when they left and when they went home, they shared all that. They couldn't explain it at all. These were men of science. Yet they knew. Could they prove it factually? Of course not. Was this the Son of God? Who knows? They didn't have DNA back then. And again, to have DNA, you have to have something to match it to. So they could find Mary's DNA, but how do you get God's DNA? Well, that's for another sermon. But they knew in their hearts. See, we get all hung up in the proving and trying to make it factual. We just gloss over that line. The story of Epiphany, the truth of Epiphany, is that we are called, each and every one of us, we are called to come into the presence of the Christ child. We are called to bring gifts of value. Now, does that necessarily mean gold and frankincense and myrrh? I hope not. My myrrh is gone. I'm out of frankincense, and I haven't seen gold in a long time. So what do I bring? Well, what's the most precious gift that each and every one of us has to offer? It is ourselves. It is all that we have, however meager that may be. It is all that we are. The gifts and talents that God has blessed us with. We are called to bring them to the Christ child and offer them to him. We are to freely choose to give up our freedom and say, "Thy will be done." And to not just say it, but to actually live it. We are to kneel down. We are to proclaim. We are to accept. We are to joyfully embrace the fact that here is one greater than I. And I bow before you. I am here to be your servant. And if you look at the original Greek, and I always know that sounds presumptuous, and I will try to say it as little as possible, but in this particular case, if you look at the original Greek, the word actually is slave. And thanks to old King James, it got changed to servant, because they couldn't handle being slaves. But that's what we are called to be. Ones who give ourselves completely, whose identity